Stewardship Sunday. And what beautiful examples of stewardship that are provided for us, both in the first reading and in the gospel. But I would preface that by saying Jesus did not see scribes of his day being good stewards. In fact, he said one of the harshest things you could say about other people, these scribes, they were devouring the houses of widows, taking full advantage of those who were at a very disadvantaged time in their life. But then he sits down there and watches that one woman, a widow, watching all the other people put in lots of money. The treasury had these containers around the temple, and they were metal. And so if you poured a whole lot of coins in, you drew attention to your contribution. I did this with the kids on Friday in our prayer service. At a metal container, I dumped a whole bunch of coins in. They all heard that. But they didn't hear as well. And I dropped 2 little dimes, and you could barely hear them. But Jesus saw them. Jesus heard them. And Jesus recognized that this widow had not just given the 2 coins, it was all she had. Just as the widow of Zarephath in the first reading, in the midst of this drought that the prophet Elijah had called down, or prophesied at least, she had nothing left except a little bit of flour, a little bit of oil. It's believed that this would be the last meal she and her son would share, and then they would die of starvation. The prophet assures her, you will share what you have. That jar of flour will not run dry, and that jug of oil will not run dry. And so it was for that following year. People willing to give of themselves, not just from their surplus wealth, as Jesus accuses others, but giving almost their all, willing to share what God has entrusted to them. And that's what a stewardship is all about. It's recognizing that whatever we have, however little or however much, we are entrusted to be the stewards of those things. And when the church talks about stewardship, we always want to talk about time, talent, and treasure. You can get focused on treasure. But it's also this idea that I'm somehow, everything I have has been given me by God. And I want to share as best I can what is entrusted to me. We are here in the month of November that is also celebrated as Black Catholic Month. So I'd like to focus a little bit on 6 particular Black Catholics, American, who are on the road to sainthood. And I've got their pictures over here. Pierre Toussaint, who died in 1853, came from Haiti. You know why Haitian immigrants do. Sorry, turn that way. He came from Haiti as a slave and bought his freedom, became the renowned hairdresser of New York, and made a lot of money, and is credited now with being the founder of Catholic Charities. He and his wife spent their lives with the little bit of fortune that he accumulated, sharing it with others. He's on the road to sainthood. Thea Bowman, a woman known to many of us, a woman some of us have actually met, died in 1990, I believe, yes, of breast cancer. Born in Mississippi, went to a Catholic school. And because of that Catholic school, she wanted to be a Catholic. Despite her parents kind of wondering about that, at the age of 7 or 8, Thea was baptized as a Catholic. Eventually joined the sisters community that had nurtured her faith early in her life. And she used her voice. Oh, God, did she use her voice? She sang those spirituals with such passion and preached and spoke of the journey of faith with vehemence and passion. And even as she was dying, and shortly before she died, speaking to all the scribes at the conference of bishops, she had them swaying, holding arms with each other, and singing, "We Shall Overcome." She had that kind of power. She used the gifts she had. She was a good steward. Long before her, Mother Henrietta de Leo founded the Sisters of Divine Providence. When a young African-American woman would not be allowed to join the sisters community, she founded her own community of sisters for African-American women. And they served the poor and taught in the schools. She gave herself and everything she had to teach young children, and eventually found that community. Father Augustus Tolton and his family, born in the slave state of Missouri, born slave, with his family, his mother and his siblings, crossed the Mississippi River into Illinois, a free state. And again, it was Catholic school. And the observation of some of the priests there that this child is intelligent, this child is deeply spiritual, encouraging a vocation to the priesthood in Augustus. Again, no seminary in the United States would take a black boy. He had to study in Rome, be ordained there, came back to Quincy, Illinois, and was not all that well received as a priest, eventually spending more of his priesthood in Chicago. But he took the gifts God gave him and put them to good use, despite the obstacles and the roadblocks to his faith. Mother Mary Lang, another founder of a community of sisters, African-American sisters, in Baltimore, Maryland. She too started off just taking a few children into her home and teaching them and educating them. And it grew into a school. It grew into a community of women. These women were of such strength, again, against so many odds. But they were good stewards of everything that God had blessed them with. And Julia Greeley, she's called the Angel of Charity in Denver, Colorado. Julia gave so much to the poor, spent her life doing that, and at a later time in her life became a Catholic. But she used everything God gave her so that it would be good for others. These 6 women and men hopefully inspire all of us with whatever gifts we have. And we're not all super intelligent. We're not all great singers of the spirituals. Very few of us are going to be expert hairdressers. But these people used what God gave them and were good stewards. And then, so here this Black Catholic History Month, which is a history that's worldwide, but focused today on these 6 men and women. And encourage you to take a look at their profiles over here, read a little bit more about them. But today is an encouragement that whatever gifts you have, and I know this is a gifted community in so many ways, that we use our passions, we use what we know, we use what we have, and reach out to helping as many people as we can. That's stewardship. I don't mind if you put stuff in the treasury. But this is the stewardship that matters the most. This is the stewardship that really matters the most. That we're giving as much of ourselves in the service of our sisters and brothers as we can. So we celebrate today this Stewardship Sunday. We celebrate in this Black Catholic History Month these men and women, but it's us too, us who are called to be great stewards, recognizing everything we have. The money you make, you made the money, but somehow it ultimately is what God allows us to have and asks us to share.
Amen.